Right now, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is on the line with us. He is the environmentalist, attorney, author of numerous things, including his latest book, Thimerosal, Let the Science Speak, and his website, robertfkennedyjr.com.
My website is the Ring of Fire website.
Oh, Ring of Fire, excuse me. Yeah. ringofireradio.com. Thank you very much. My apologies. And so, Bobby, I've got literally right now, I got calls from California, Illinois, Texas, Florida, West Virginia, Washington State, Oregon, Texas, and Wisconsin, all wanting to talk to you about vaccines. You want to just do a quick recap of this article that you've published over at ringofireradio.com, and then we can pick up these calls?
Sure. The recap is that a 16-year veteran CDC scientist, named Bill Thompson, still working at CDC, has essentially filed for whistleblower status. He's hired attorneys and invoked the protection of the federal whistleblower statute, saying that, and he's the primary author of the only 2 studies left standing that try to claim that thimerosal is not damaging to children's brains. And he now says that his superiors at CDC forced him to bury data, alter data, and lie on those studies.
And we played a clip of him.
And he wants to testify in front of Congress, and he has handed thousands of documents over to Congressman Bill Posey on the Health Committee.
Right. And we played a clip of that in the last hour. We can play that or others if you'd like. Let's pick up some phone calls and see where this goes, okay? Joey in Lake Elsinore, California. You are on the air with Bobby Kennedy.
Tom, this is Joe from Lake Elsinore. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Kennedy, what a privilege it is to speak with you. I oftentimes show my son a picture of you as the procession passes by, and myself at the same age, and it's amazing. What a privilege. I firmly affirm what you're saying. I have 2 kids that were both born prematurely, and they were both given the RSV vaccination. Early on, I had no choice, but we did it. And we've since been vaccinating our kids. But I've been insistent that we do the individual dose on the flu vaccine because of the thimerosal. It's sometimes a delay of maybe 3 months before it actually gets issued. But if you wait, you can get pediatric dosages as opposed to the batch. Now, as you've quoted, there's a whistleblower status. They've known about this for years. That fund was established specifically to address that. I didn't realize that the Eli Lilly component became a factor, but I think Tom mentioned about the bird flu. They were trying to get immunizations for that. The damages that are caused by flu vaccinations, by childhood immunizations, are all related to the additives so that they can continue to profit at the same time disregard the effects that have occurred. I wouldn't say that there are millions, but there are probably close to 1 million people that have been affected by immunizations. And, I think they weigh this view of the greater good, but, if that's your child that's affected by that, then I don't think you can really use that argument.
Joey, well said. Let's let Bobby respond to this, please. Thank you.
Well, the sad part about it is that in 1999, CDC and FDA did a series of studies in the 90s that showed that that thimerosal was causing all of these injuries to children. There's a fantastic movie that's about to be released that goes through all this kind of sausage making at CDC. And it was made parallel to while I was writing my book, and I worked with the creators of this movie, and it's called Trace Amounts, and I would urge you to watch that movie. You cannot watch that movie. When we showed it in Los Angeles, the press came into that movie hostile, skeptical, angry at me. Virtually every one of them left saying, I'm convinced. They can see what CDC said. This is about government corruption. The sad part is that FDA, in 1998, having studied thimerosal exhaustively, ordered thimerosal out of all over-the-counter medicines. It was in hundreds of over-the-counter medicines. For example, Murine eye drops were, mercury thimerosal-based, and they found out that they were blinding people. Mercurochrome, which we used to rub on ourselves when we were kids, when we were cut, it was that red antiseptic. It was in that. And it was in hundreds of others, and FDA said, you got to get it out. It was illegalized for use in animals back in the 1940s. So And CDC recommended that it be removed from all vaccines in 1999. So that the industry began doing that. It didn't force them to recall the thimerosal, and so they continued to use it until 2003, but by then they removed it from all the pediatric vaccines. Unfortunately, and really bewilderingly, CDC that same year, 2003, mandated or added flu vaccines to the pediatric schedule. And the flu vaccines were thimerosal flu vaccines. So while they took it out of the pediatric vaccines, they added it to the flu vaccines in almost the same concentrations
as a maternal
vaccine. Vaccines combined. So kids today can get virtually the same exposures that they were getting before they removed it from the pediatric vaccines. And worst of all, they're now giving it to pregnant women for the first time. And even the companies have said to CDC, we can remove this. We can produce 100% of the vaccine thimerosal-free. But CDC, because of money, won't do it.
Wow. That's quite the indictment. Wayne in Chicago. Hey, Wayne, you're on the air with Bobby Kennedy Jr.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Kennedy. A pleasure to speak with you, and always a pleasure to speak with Tom.
Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to say that hopefully, now that the truth is coming out, the mainstream media can stop what they're doing as far as bamboozling the American people. For instance, the preservative-free version of the flu vaccine is supposed to be preservative-free, but it still contains trace amounts of thimerosal, and they're still giving it to babies, children, and pregnant women. That's Merck that has the patent on the MMR vaccine. The scientific evidence has shown that it's best to take those vaccines separately, single-dose vaccines. But Merck doesn't want to do it because of company profits. Mr. Kennedy, I hope that you can go to the Congress of the United States and reveal the truth to the American people that these vaccines actually do cause autism. They have the
Wayne, we have just a minute left before the break. Let's let Bobby respond to your comments.
Well, okay. I think you're right about that, and what you're saying it shows that if you look at the talking points, the first thing you said about the press, the mainstream press is impenetrable on this issue. They it is Kafkaesque. No matter what kind of science you show them, they will not read it. None of them have read the science. They're taking the word of CDC bureaucrats who are badly compromised for what the science says. But they will dutifully repeat and parrot the talking points of CDC. They'll say, oh, well, this is ethyl mercury, and it's not toxic like the methyl mercury in fish. There's good mercury and bad mercury. That's completely been debunked. But they'll repeat that, or they'll say there's no such thing as an autism epidemic. And all these things that Americans know to be untrue because they've actually read the science, and that's why you see that the vaccine rates are lower in educated neighborhoods, because these are people who have actually gone on the internet. You go to the public health site, and the science is there.
We'll be right back with more of Bobby Kennedy Jr. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Bobby, I'm assuming you can stick around, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hang on just a second. And welcome back. Bobby, for the next 4 minutes, our commercial stations are in commercial break, which represents about half our audience. The other half of our audience is Pacifica stations and Free Speech TV, and they are all with us right now. So we're still on the air. We're still talking live to them, and we'll pick up calls from Free Speech TV during this 4 minutes, if that's all right with you.
Okay.
Okay. Anita in San Antonio, Texas, watching Free Speech TV on DirecTV. You are on the air with Bobby Kennedy Jr.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Mr. Kennedy.
Hi.
Yeah, I think it's totally irresponsible, the kind of mixed signals that you guys are giving about vaccines. And I don't think we can claim to be the party of science when we deny science when it comes to vaccines. Now, I know you say that you have your own science, but I listened to the hearing that Elizabeth Warren had, and they addressed some of these questions, and with the lead researcher from the CDC, and I think it would have been more appropriate, Mr. Hartmann, if you would have had Mr. Kennedy on with maybe somebody who represented them, or maybe the lead researcher from the CDC, or somebody who represented them.
Can I answer that?
Go for it.
I would so love for that to happen. There is nobody at CDC who will debate me publicly. There is nobody in the vaccine industry that will debate me publicly. There is no TV show that will let me on to debate these people. I would like to ask them to show me a single science. It's not that I have my science and they have their science. I want to see what their science is. We spent over $200,000, myself, Harvard Medical School professor, Martha Herbert, Mark Hyman, 8 times New York Times bestseller. When we wrote our book, we spent 3 years, over $200,000. We had a research team of 12 people. They went out and into all of the scientific literature, and our job was not to cherry pick science, but to find every scientific study that's ever been done on thimerosal. And we could not, and we found over 500 studies, 1,400 references. They're all in my book. We could not find a single legitimate study other than the 3 epidemiological studies that were done by CDC, which have now all been disavowed. There are hundreds and hundreds of studies out there.
Well,
they all say the same thing, that thimerosal that it is more persistent in the body than methylmercury, that it's more toxic to the brain, that it metabolizes into organic mercury faster, that it does cause these neurological injuries in animals and hamsters and guinea pigs and fish and cows and goats and pheasants and pigs, and that it causes it in human beings. So we have all this data. They don't have anything. What they say is, this is what the science says. But then when you say, okay, can you tell me a study? They can't give you one.
Anita, if I could add, because we're going to hit a break in just a second here. Bobby and I are not saying vaccines are bad or don't vaccinate. We're saying
but you can't say you should vaccinate, but oh my God, all these terrible things happen to kids that are vaccinated.
You can ask for vaccines that don't have thimerosal in them.
Exactly.
I did this just
there's a
2 months ago.
Every vaccine that doesn't have thimerosal.
Yeah, 3 months ago, whenever it was, when the flu shots were being hyped, I stopped at the CVS pharmacy and went in and said, "Hey, can I get a thimerosal-free flu shot?" And the woman was like, "Yeah, that's the single-dose shots. They're preservative-free. The multiple-dose shots, they have a preservative in them because every time you use them, you introduce room air into them, so they have to have so they have thimerosal." So I said, does it cost a little more? Yeah, it's an extra $10 or something for the single dose. I took it. So I got a vaccine without thimerosal in it. That's what we're talking about, Anita. We're not saying don't vaccinate yourself or your kids. We'll be back. Welcome back, Thom Hartmann and Bobby Kennedy Jr. on the line with us, talking about thimerosal and vaccines and all this sort of stuff. Bobby's got a new article over at ringofireradio.com, and there'll be a link to it at thomhartmann.com, and we'll have a link in our newsletter tonight as well. Bobby, I continue to pick up phone calls?
Yeah.
Okay. Sharon in Occidental, California. You're on the air with Bobby Kennedy Jr.
Thanks for taking my call. This is a real honor. This vaccine debate in the last couple of weeks, I've kind of gotten interested in it, and I'm older, and my instinct is to say, polio bad, vaccines good. And so I started investigating this, kind of pretending as if I was the mother of a newborn baby. And I'm willing to be convinced. And I went to the CDC website, and I see that they're recommending that a 2-month-old baby be vaccinated against 10 diseases in one office visit. And I remember you, Tom, talking about how you had gotten a vaccine and it turned your entire arm black.
Yeah, that was pretty nasty. That was to go into Central Africa. That was like yellow fever and dengue fever or something like that.
Right, but that's the principle of vaccines. They make you a little bit sick, and they build your immunity. But it violates my common sense that they want to give a 2-month-old baby a little bit of diphtheria, a little bit of whooping cough, a little bit of rotavirus 1, a little bit of 2, 3, all the way up to 10 diseases in one day. And that really just violates my common sense. And when my common sense is violated, there's got to be strong science that I can read and believe in order to go with what they're recommending. And so I go to the CDC website, and I find that they have a page saying, "Are multiple vaccines safe?" And they talk about it, "Oh, yes, we've done research, multiple vaccines are safe." And then they say, but then all the references are from papers done in 1991 to 1998. But they've doubled the number of vaccines they now require kids to get at the age of 2 months. And this really just violates my common sense. And
Sharon, let's let Bobby respond to that. We've kind of Sharon has moved us out of thimerosal and into these multi-vaccine. Let's even say that there's no thimerosal. Is that a concern, Bobby?
Well, I'm not an expert on vaccines. Like I said, I vaccinated my children. I believe that vaccines work. I think that that what she is doing is the right thing, which is to go and look at the science herself, and listen to CDC and listen to the government agencies. But I really have no comment on it because I know very little about vaccines. What I know a lot about is mercury, and I know that mercury and human brain tissue should not ever be together. Yeah,
there you go. Jennifer in Bellingham, Washington. You're on the air with Bobby Kennedy.
Oh, thank you for taking my phone call, Tom. And Mr. Kennedy, I really appreciate all the work you've done on this topic. When my son was 5 and was getting his shots for school, he had his DPT shot and 8 days later had a grand mal seizure. The physician told me it wasn't possible that it had anything to do with his vaccine, and I had a strong feeling that it did. And I believe the paperwork where you sign a waiver that says you won't hold them responsible says, reactions within 7 days. So this is 1 day past that. And that just made me wonder if maybe, and I'm sure it wasn't reported then to the CDC as a reaction to the vaccine. And I'm just wondering if there aren't more people who had reactions that weren't reported to the CDC.
Yeah, that raises an interesting question, Jennifer. Bobby, we had one of our kids had a really severe reaction to MMR, and Louise to this day is convinced that there was some lasting consequence to that. I don't know. But we never reported it to anybody other than our pediatrician who said, don't worry, he'll be fine.
CDC, the vaccine courts give awards of between 3,000 and 4,500 Americans every year who have been injured by vaccines. CDC estimates that that's from 1% to 10% of the total of people who had vaccine reactions. So that's just what CDC says. But again, my expertise is on mercury and not on vaccines in general, and I recommend people get vaccines.
Right, and this is the point that has to be made repeatedly, I think. How much time do we have, Shana? Got about a minute and a half. Okay. Quick question here. Ken in Inwood, West Virginia. You're on the air with Bobby Kennedy.
Oh, God bless Mr. Kennedy for your work in this field. Regarding my child, we were a foster family, and we were obligated by the state that we wanted to go one by one. We did our research on all the vaccinations, and we took her to the state pediatrician and said, "Oh, here's the one shot with 7 viruses in it, but she'll be okay." And we were very adamant, but since we were only a foster family, we didn't have full control. So he gave it to her. And it wasn't about 2 hours later, she got 104-degree fever and had massive seizures. And she was like that for a whole year, where she was developmentally on her 4-month shots. She was starting to go crawl and do all the things that a 4 or 6 month old would do. And now she can barely talk, barely walk, and she's 4 now. So it's, I'm sorry, it's a little bit emotional for me, but we adopted her. She's ours now, and we're doing anything we can. And if you do go to DC, I would love to find out a way where I can be there in the audience with our child and show those guys, what these things can do to children.
Bobby, your thoughts?
Oh, thanks for that story.
Yeah, this is these are Ken's story. These are the kind of folks who should show up at the vaccine courts. Is that right?
Yeah, that is definitely. I mean, there's no other option. You can't sue anybody with. They have complete immunity. The vaccine makers have complete immunity.
Bobby, we're hitting a news break here. 6-minute newscast at the bottom of the hour. If you'd like to stick around and take some more calls, you're more than welcome to.
Sure.
Okay, great. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with us. ringofireradio.com. Stick around.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
We'll be back. Keep in mind, we're talking here about mercury. It happens to be in vaccines, but it's about mercury.